Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2008 Kia Rio. Up front is a 1.6 liter inline 4 and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here Kia Rio for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a really cool color. But second of all, I've never driven the second generation Rio here on the channel. I've done a first gen, I've done a third and a fourth, but never the second. So I think this is kind of an important car for Kia. I'm excited to share with you why. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 1.6 liter under the hood. Well, this is where the importance of this car really starts to shine through. This is a Hyundai built engine used in the Hyundai Accent as well as here in the Kia Rio, and its architecture has been spread throughout the entire Kia and Hyundai lineup. It only makes about 110 horsepower, which was more than the 1.4 liter offered in Europe, and on paper and honestly in driving, it's not that great of an engine. It works, it propels the car like an engine should, but that's pretty much it. The reason it's so important is because this car, this generation of Kia Rio, marks Kia sort of stepping into their own and selling cars without someone holding their hand. You see, the first gen Kia Rio that I reviewed had a lot of Mazda and Ford parts associated with it. The engine was Mazda. The transmission was Mazda, which was also owned by Ford and shared with like the Ford Escort and things like that. This is totally Kia / Hyundai, which is the same company. And that's very clear with this engine. Speaking of transmission, this one is outfitted with a 5-speed manual transmission. And I'm a decent fan of it. It's not crazy notchy. It's not quite up to the standards of Honda at the time. But the clutch is very, very light. The shifter throw is nice and easy. And I don't really have any major complaints, and it should also be noted that this car has 152,000 miles on it, so it's not quite the spring chicken it used to be. Last but not least about the drivetrain, of course, it is front-wheel drive, and how does it actually feel to drive a second-generation Kia Rio? Well, it's very basic. It's an economy car. It drives like an economy car. The controls are very, very light. The steering is light, the shifter is light, the clutch pedal's light, the gas pedal's light. I feel like if I breathe on it the right way, it'll go into gear, which is a nice feeling, especially for cars of this caliber. It's a little sloppy in the handling, but again, you have to factor in those 152,000 miles. I'm sure it's a little tired, but also it's an economy car. This isn't meant to be shredding Autobahn Country Club at Grid Life next year. It's meant to get you around town and not fall over, and it does that job pretty well. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges and a little digital odometer. Off to the left is my tachometer as well as coolant temperature, and off to the right is my speedometer and fuel. I like how the gauges are laid out, very plain and simple and easy to read at a very quick glance. On the steering wheel, I don't have anything. It looks like I would maybe get cruise control or something of that nature, but alas, I do not. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent, as well as my fog light switches and gauge dimmer switches. Interesting that this car has so few features, and yet it has fog lights. Kind of an interesting thing there. Speaking of which, up on the door, I have manual mirrors, manual windows, and of course my latch to get in and out, but I have this nice stitched door card, which is, again, kind of an interesting spec. You would think they would focus on giving you power windows before nice red stitching, but their priorities were not always in the proper place. Moving into the center, I do get a digital clock, as well as my factory radio that has CD and aux. For 2008, an economy car, an aux cord was pretty nice, as well as I have my hazard switch and rear defrost, and then I have my climate controls themselves. So, temperature off to the left, fan speed in the center, where to send it off to the right, and my air conditioning and recirculating in the center. Speaking of center, I do have a 12-volt outlet, a little cubby, as well as my aux is found down below in this big sort of coin tray. And then we come to the shifter itself. The shifter obviously has seen better days. However, it is functional. It's exactly what I would expect out of an economy car, so that's all fine and dandy. Then I do have the handbrake and the cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2008 Kia Rio, and in the front one, it fails. But if you put it in the back, it actually passes the big friggin' bottle test. I had no idea that this would occur. I really did not think it would, but here I am sitting in an '08 Kia Rio with my big friggin' bottle. Then we gotta talk about the seats. Obviously, these are aftermarket seat covers to match the exterior paint, I guess. I'm not a big fan of them. They're fine. The seats are comfortable enough. They hold me in enough. They're rigid enough. You know, what do you expect out of economy seats? Is my back killing me after this drive? No. But am I feeling massaged? Also no. But that's the way the cookie crumbles when it comes to economy seats. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2008 Kia Rio, and nothing really to report back here. I don't even get a center console. I, of course, have manual windows just like the front. Headroom is okay. My head's starting to touch here, but not the end of the world. My knees do have some space, so I can sit back here as a full-grown 5'11" adult, and it's not the end of the world. Would I want to go back here for a cross-country road trip? No, but they also do make the Kia Rio 5, which was a hatchback, which I would love to review if anyone has one. But sitting back here as a normal adult, not super great. Let's hop around the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so on the back of the Kia Rio, we do have a little keyhole over here. Pop it up, and that is the trunk. Obviously, like the back seats, no crazy amenities, lights, nets, anything like that. However, I can pull this up. You do get a tiny, tiny little spare tire, but that's pretty much it. Plenty of space. I mean, honestly, looking at it, plenty of space, but just nothing too crazy. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and one of the main things that drew me to this car was this exterior color. I love when economy cars are put in wild and dazzling colors. I just think it's cool. It's a fun way to spice things up. However, I do think all of the plastic cladding, that black trim that you see, I think it does make the car look pretty cheap. I think if they did away with that, maybe color matched it, it wouldn't look so cheap. It looks like those big bumpers and liners that you see on like RC cars, so when you bash them into your parents' kitchen table, it doesn't scuff it up. That's what the exterior kind of reminds me of. And as you can see, the hood no longer securely fastens down. It will click in once, but not twice. But with all of that out of the way, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a second-gen Kia Rio in manual? I feel like that's a little bit of an overlooked part of this video. Well, I really like it, but I do want to talk about the car as a whole and its importance before I get on to my thoughts personally. This car is an important part of Kia's story because Kia only started here in the United States. Back in the early 90s, they were really starting to get their foothold. Hyundai started back in the 80s with the Hyundai Excel, of which I've reviewed here on the channel, but also the Hyundai Pony up in Canada. We never got that model, but we got the Hyundai Excel back in 1988, and it was a cheap economy car that was basically a rebadged Mitsubishi. And so all throughout the 90s, Kia needed help from everyone to get off the ground. Like I mentioned earlier, the first-gen Kia Rio shared a lot of parts with the Ford Escort and other Mazda vehicles. It was sort of a mishmash of parts from all around Asia and America just to make those cars work. And they sold well. They sold well enough to warrant a second generation, this car. And so Kia took what they learned from the first car and said, you know what? Let's do it on our own. If the first-gen Kia Rio was everything they learned in high school, this is going away to college. Everything you learned in the past 4 years, now let's do it on my own. I have to learn how to cook and clean and manage my own schedule. I don't have someone knocking on my door to wake me up every day. I have to be self-sufficient. And so, the first couple months, the first couple times, that's pretty rocky. You know, this car is sort of the going out and partying phase and waking up at 1 in the afternoon and skipping class and forgetting to go to class and not understanding how to cook, so you just make ramen noodles. This is a transitional year, but it's important to have that transitional year because now Kia is killing the game. I mean, Kia makes some of the most fascinating and great products that you can buy today. The new Rio's a great car, but also the Kia EV6 really pushing the boundaries when it comes to EVs. The new Niro that I drove, fantastic. The Telluride is still pretty good. The new Sportage, great. The K5 looks aggressive in a sedan. I love that. So this car was kind of the first car after Kia got cut off. Mom and Dad said, no more credit card for you. So yeah, this car is pretty ugly. Would I buy one personally? Probably not. The driving experience is eh. Don't view this car as a failure. View it as a stepping stone. A stepping stone that made the Kia Forte GT, a fantastic budget enthusiast car, possible. And that to me is super cool to see. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.